Hey guys, this is Justin. Hello and welcome to another video. Today we will be talking about everyone's favorite Chiss Grand Admiral, Thrawn Nuroto, Thrawn himself. And it's a good time for this topic if you're a Star Wars fan because Thrawn is about to become very relevant in the upcoming Ahsoka series and perhaps even shows like Skeleton Crew. Now, in today's video, I won't be talking about any leaks from those shows. Rather, I want to address the idea of Thrawn and what kind of Thrawn we're going to get in this stage of new Star Wars canon. And there's always been an interesting divide in how Thrawn is seen. Is he a cunning Imperial villain, one who wants to destroy either the Rebels or the New Republic, depending on the source, or instead, is he an anti-hero or perhaps even a hero who makes difficult decisions for the greater good of, if not the galaxy, at least the Chiss people? And if you've only seen Star Wars Rebels, you're probably wondering, what am I talking about? He's a pretty clear-cut villain in that show. And yeah, I agree. And that's actually how Thrawn was portrayed in the original trilogy that he starred in the early 90s. Despite the fact that he kills one of his subordinates, Thrawn's no Darth Vader. He's not needlessly cruel. However, in his original portrayal, he is an Imperial. He's fighting for the Empire. He's trying to destroy the evils of the New Republic. However, both Star Wars canon and Legends have done this thing where Thrawn's been transformed into a somewhat different character despite his most prominent appearances. Let's start with Legends first, and Thrawn's mostly, if not totally, been handled by Timothy Zahn, the creator of the character, as well as being one of the most important figures and authors in the Star Wars Legends continuity, probably up there, maybe number one. So Legends initially gave us 3 Thrawn books, Heir to the Empire, Dark Force Rising, and The Last Command. In those novels, as I mentioned, Thrawn is an Imperial. He is happy to work with the psychopath Jorah Sabaoth. He's happy to rain down destruction on the planet Coruscant, facilitate the kidnapping of children, etc., etc. When he dies at the end of the novel, it is unequivocally a good thing for the forces of good. However, various stories which would come out later would change how Thrawn was portrayed. In 1995, the short story Mist Encounter was released, which details how Thrawn came to the attention of the Empire. In that story, we get to see Thrawn's recharacterization as an individual who cared for, above all else, his people, the Chiss. Later on, we'd get the Thrawn duology, and in Vision of the Future, Mara Jade and Luke Skywalker travel to one of Thrawn's hidden fortresses in the unknown region, where we learn that everything Thrawn has done was for what he considered to be the greater good of the galaxy. He knows that there's threats in the unknown regions and beyond, which will push the galaxy to its limits. He joined the Empire because he believed that autocratic rule was their best defense, and also established the Empire of the Hand as a buffer against what would turn out to be the Yuuzhan Vong. Now, this was such a different take on the character that when rumors of Thrawn being revived start circulating across the galaxy, his commanders within the Empire of the Hand think it much more likely that he joins the New Republic versus the Empire because of their now dominant political position in the galaxy. Other stories expand on this, like The Outbound Flight, but you can see how Thrawn turned from being a villain to a more nuanced anti-hero, or as I mentioned, perhaps even hero. This was largely because of Timothy Zahn's developing understanding of the character. Interestingly, however, we've seen the same thing happen now in Star Wars canon. Thrawn in Star Wars Rebels is clearly a villain. The difference is that version of Thrawn is not being written by Timothy Zahn. Zahn, however, has written about Thrawn in canon. There's been 2 trilogies, the Ascendancy trilogy, and what I guess you just call the new canon Thrawn trilogy. And in these novels, Timothy Zahn has taken the anti-hero, complex, greater good style approach to Thrawn versus the pure villain approach, and it's been consistent throughout all 6 novels. So much so that Thrawn's exile from the Chiss, a major part of his character in Star Wars Legends, is actually faked so that he can join the Empire and protect his people from a more powerful position. Thrawn in canon is perhaps even more nuanced and good than his Legends counterpart. In the unknown regions, he's shown to be caring of even non-Chiss species, which is very rare in a region of space where everyone is really just concerned about protecting their own. He also shows care to the vulnerable, including children. He respects his enemies, as we see in, for example, his encounters with Night Swan, and generally in the novels, he refuses to kill civilians. The problem is, again, this doesn't match what we see in Star Wars Rebels, where he's happy enough to bombard a city to try to bring Ezra out of hiding. With Thrawn about to come to live action, and most likely Ahsoka we're about to see the most high-profile appearance of the character in history. So, what are they going to do with him? Well, unfortunately, this is the part where I've got to give the hard news to book readers. Thrawn is not going to be, in my opinion at least, the nuanced, caring, do it for the greater good type of character that you'll expect him to be if you've read those novels. Because the debate about what Thrawn should be has been raging now for 30 years. While a lot of people like him as this more complex character, a lot of people think that Thrawn is better as a villain. And we know that that includes Dave Filoni based on Thrawn's appearances in Star Wars Rebels. Timothy Zahn apparently was not asked to consult on that show. He didn't do any writing. His vision of Thrawn doesn't seem to match what Dave Filoni and others see in the character, and that's probably also because the original Thrawn trilogy in Star Wars Legends is far and away the most popular and influential portrayal of the character. A lot of people also see Timothy Zahn as going too far in redeeming his character. Maybe he got too attached to Thrawn and he didn't want him to just be a dead villain. But yeah, that inconsistency is there, and Timothy Zahn has also said that when writing for new canon, he's basically treated the story of Thrawn as it existed into Star Wars Legends pretty much as one, and that's why we've seen elements from Legends like the Outbound Flight project hinted at heavily in books like the Thrawn Ascendancy trilogy. But another truth is that Thrawn's story in Star Wars canon, the story told in the books anyway, has been largely inconsequential. Timothy Zahn is given a lot of area to play with Thrawn, but in a part of the timeline that just doesn't matter, and to be frank, doesn't influence future works. That's why we're probably not going to see the Grisk tied in other projects, despite them being a somewhat interesting force and held out to be this major villain. It's pretty clear to me that when it comes to live action Thrawn, he's going to be evil. He's going to be the heir to the Empire villain. Now, I do think they may take a somewhat balanced approach where, yeah, Thrawn is an evil Imperial, but he also is worried about something else out there, and that may be something that he uses to try to woo Ezra to his side as they're traveling to who knows where on the backs of the Purrgil. Do I think it sucks that Star Wars authors haven't been involved more in how their characters have been brought to canon? Yeah, I do. I wish Timothy Zahn was more involved with Thrawn's big appearances, Rebels, live action, whatever. That being said, I've sort of waffled on how I feel about Thrawn's character, whether he should be evil, whether he should be quote-unquote good, or something in between. I do think Zahn has at times tipped the scale too far in one direction in how he portrays the character, but being realistic, it's sort of just the way it is. Like, Thrawn's going to be written by Dave Filoni, not by Timothy Zahn. Dave Filoni has shown how he likes the character to be, so that's what I would expect out of him for the upcoming show. Those are just my thoughts though. Let me know yours down below.